I'm curious, have you guys found any way to utilize that AI information other than for like the relationship aspect of like your client knowing that you guys are at least trying?
One thing I've been doing a lot recently, and the tool that we're using, is looking at citations, filtering by competitors where my brand is not mentioned. So I'll pull up a list of all the links that were cited in prompts where our brand wasn't mentioned but a competitor was. And a lot of those are like editorial blogs.
I look at the prompts of what AI is looking at for that type of service, product, brand, whatever. But then I marry it back to the data that I know and trust, the keyword rankings, the search volume, all of that. So that is definitely a process that I follow too. When I think of AI, I use it to answer questions, to make sure my brands are showing up where they need to show up, but I also use it to become efficient.
Welcome to SEO On Air. We have two guests with us today. We're going to dive into quality and quantity of SEO today, and also try to understand a little bit more about what they're seeing from your perspectives, Liz and Leilani, about the state of marketing today, and also what the customers are asking about. Because I do think that there's a lot to unpack with what the actual stories are from the clients that we're working with. So to start, I want to have Liz, if you could just tell us a little bit about your background, and if you'd like to, a little bit about the agency that you're with.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Liz Bowers. I've been in SEO for around 11 years now, which I feel makes me like ancient. But I know that there's people who have been around a lot longer than me. I've been everywhere from agency to being on the corporate, like in-house enterprise, however you classify that side of things. And now I'm actually back in agency world and love it. I'm at an agency called Mosaic Marketing. We're a small agency in Northeast Ohio, and we help any business size, small, medium, large business sizes to just enhance their digital marketing. Obviously, I'm focused on SEO. But we do all kinds of digital marketing.
Thank you. I think that it's interesting that you moved from the enterprise team back to agency, because agency can be a wild place.
I get called crazy all the time. And you know what? I'm here for it. I went nuts in the corporate world. Too much red tape. I guess I just embraced the crazy.
Yeah, more fun that way, I guess, right?
Right.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us. Leilani, please tell us a little bit about your background in your agency as well.
Sure. I'm Leilani Bruce. I have been in SEO for about 8 years. I started in social media, then I was like, I don't really like this. Learned about SEO out of college. I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. I think there's like a creative element and an analytical element that you can play with. My whole SEO career has been in agency, so I don't know any other world. Previously, I was like really heavily in the content editorial side of SEO. I think as AI was introduced, that industry got shaken up a lot. But I think now that people were like outputting things at scale, it's starting to come around where like the quality matters again, which is, I guess, what we'll talk about later. Currently, I'm at a full service SEO agency. It's really like a plug and play system. Like we integrate into our clients' teams as like an accessory to their internal like marketing or SEO teams. So a lot more technical SEO, still doing content, outreach. And then we also have a paid component to our agency as well. LA SEO, we're based in Southern California, but remote company. So we service clients all over the country.
I love it. The fact that both of you have like your companies are full service is great too. We're not just diving into SEO. Your perspective is going to be about the crazy multi-channel SEO world that we're kind of experiencing today. So before we dive into those details, though, I want to just get your feel for what both of you, so it's open to both of you, what are your clients saying about the industry today? What is the general feel for marketing today? I know what LinkedIn says, and I know what some of those Reddit posts say, and it's a wild place for the state of marketing. But what's the experience from agencies today?
So I'll kick it off. So honestly, it's all over the board, and it's so funny to me. And maybe it's because I am in the SEO world and I try to embrace AI that it's just like, how do you avoid it? But I have clients that completely embrace it. They are like, give me a GEO strategy, which we don't have to get into that debacle here now, because that's probably a whole other podcast topic. But all the way to the other extreme of the client is like, you know what, it's moving too fast. I don't even want to touch it. Let's just not do it. And it's like, I'm sorry, what? you can't really avoid it. It's there. Your potential clients are going to find you that way. So I would say I probably have an even balance across the board. If I had to say, there's probably more clients that are embracing GEO or kind of AI in general.
I would say I'm seeing something similar on my side. Like there are clients that like really want to buy into the AI space, and they're like, how can we get these citations in these LLMs? Like, why are we not showing up? And then there's like, I think more traditional companies that are kind of looking at things as a bigger picture, and like they know that SEO is still kind of the foundation of what they need to then be able to expand into AI. They're not going all in necessarily on GEO and ignoring other channels. But then there are some of the clients that are like, we don't care about anything else. Like we only care about AI and GEO. So it's been interesting to manage. And I think from a perspective of someone who's like a client manager at an agency that has different clients with different needs, part of my job has been to like think about, okay, what are the tool sets that we need to like have a benchmark and a baseline, and like how are we going to be proactive about acting in the AI GEO space as clients start to warm up to it, or the ones that we have now that are like all the way all in, like how can we satisfy that need while not sacrificing like the quality of the existing work that we're doing in technical SEO and content and outreach and all of those things, and kind of thinking about like how do we integrate that into our current process without abandoning the foundation of what we know works and has worked.
I was going to say, I want to jump in because I actually want to ask you kind of like a clarifying question too, or maybe just some more details. So how much of your communication with clients with AI is, I don't want to call it just talk, but just kind of what they're used to hearing, what they want to hear, but continuing to do the same kind of strategies like you're talking about. Because I feel like I phrase things in a certain way with clients so that way they know that we are focusing on it, but it really comes down to the regular core. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, I think a large piece of it is education. It's like, how do these things work? It's like, oh, well, they're pulling citations so that you want to surface in those citations or those mentions. In order to do that, you need to either have content that talks about the answers that these prompts are asking, or get links placed in sites that are highly cited. So there's like an education piece, and there's also like I think it started with like tracking things that were easy to track without extra tools, like how much referral traffic is coming in from like ChatGPT or any of the LLMs. And then now it's a little bit more grounded. We finally got a tool that we're tracking specific prompts across different LLMs, and we're able to see our like share of voice, our sentiment, how we're being cited versus competitors, where citations are coming from. And that's been able to like ground the conversation more in like something we can share in a slide that's like more visible, and like it's what they care about. It's like, here's where you are, here's where your competitors are, here's the content we're generating to help you surface in these prompts in the future. Here's the links that you might want to get placements for through PR or backlinking or whatever it is. So it's becoming more grounded, but it definitely took time to get to that point, because for a while we were like looking at the accessible data that you could get in Ahrefs or SEMrush without buying into their like crazy plans. We were looking at referral traffic in GA4, which is data that we already had. And then Bing launched like their tool where you're able to see webmaster tools to see more AI traffic from that lens. So we were like kind of piecing together all the data that we could have in the existing systems that we were already using for SEO. And then the next phase of that is now like having dedicated tools where we're like, okay, people actually care about this. They want to know what we're doing about it. We need to like be more grounded in our tracking for AI. So that's kind of where we are now. But I think it was like an iterative process as we were figuring everything out, and didn't want to like just jump on the bandwagon and be like, okay, everyone's doing this. We need 100 tools to figure this out. And like, they all cost a lot of money, and are they all valuable? Like, I don't know. So it's been like a process for sure.
Liz, we need to flip that same question on you, because that's a good question.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would agree with a lot of what Leilani has said. I do feel like I have trust issues. I don't know what tools to really trust when it comes to AI tracking. For me, it comes down to the visibility of what data they're actually pulling from. In mid-February, when Bing did launch their webmaster tools, I threw a party. I thought it was amazing. And I was like, every AI should follow this. Crickets. So I do have a hard time like trying to find some of that grounded data. I work on my own. I try to either create something like Google Analytics channels or something to try to back up some of that, understanding that it's just a small percentage of that that's actually going over to the site. But I think you said it well. I think it is a lot of just learning and teaching the clients what that kind of looks like. But it's hard when you don't know what to trust, and the prices aren't there to trial and error.
No, I completely agree. I think the trust piece is huge. Like, as I was evaluating these tools, I think asking certain questions like, oh, how are you compiling this data? Like, okay, LLMs are not sharing specific data. So, like, what is your methodology? I think being able to get a clear answer for that, I think shows like the honesty and transparency in tool, and like not all tools are created equal. I definitely, going through some of these demos, got some like shady answers where I was like, I know that's not possible. So like, why are you telling me that's what you have? I think a lot of the tools are using like clickstream data that users have opted into, and it's like basically it's sample data, but I think it's still useful for like tracking visibility over a large set. It's not perfect. It's not what we're used to with like traditional organic keywords. I don't think any of the tools are perfect, and they're all kind of competing for the same market, and they all have their own methods of gathering data. But I think, yeah, like for me, and choosing a tool that we could trust to the greatest extent that you can trust any of these tools came down to like asking questions about like the how and the why and what their like metrics mean in their like definition and how they're being calculated and the methodology to like, okay, like if you don't know an answer, I appreciate you telling me that. If something is grounded in data that is from your data sources and not from like everyone, be honest about it. And that'll, I think, be like, okay, I can trust your tool and you're going to tell me what it can and can't do. And then I can tell my clients what it can and can't do. So yeah, that's been a tough piece because there's like a lot of money in AI and everyone wants a piece of the pie, and like there's so much shady stuff going on behind the scenes with a lot of these tools, and companies are just trying to like sell a subscription
for like the next 6 months until the AI tools have fully adopted that process into their own standard procedure, which is kind of where I get it's complicated paying for stuff. One of the things I was privileged to, I got to talk to one of the big companies that does like a lot of the AI reporting. And it was fascinating because they also are very much aware that there's like this factor of we can give you some visuals to report, but there's not like an and then what aspect to it. Like there's really not anything that you can do with that data that isn't traditional SEO. And I'm curious, have you guys found any way to utilize that AI information other than for like the relationship aspect of like your client knowing that you guys are at least trying?
I can start. I think that's kind of the big challenge as like adopting a new tools when we've been used to like traditional SEO tools for so long. Like we all know how to use some version of Ahrefs, SEMrush, whatever it is. We can like pull exactly what we need from that, and like we can use Search Console and pull what we need from that. Like we have Looker, we can pull those dashboards and we know what to do. I think the action piece of these tools is something that comes down to like building what AI strategy is going to look like. So like one thing I've been doing a lot recently in the tool that we're using is looking at citations, filtering by competitors where my brand is not mentioned. So I'll pull up a list of all the links that were cited in prompts where our brand wasn't mentioned, but a competitor was. And a lot of those are like editorial blog articles. So that's just like, okay, here's something that can be pulled into our content strategy. And that's like, you know, correlates to SEO too. But now we're like, okay, we're playing on what's ranking in AI. And then we can also like corroborate that with like organic search volume for a specific topic. But that data came from that AI tool that's like, here are these pages that are being cited that are editorial pages that you don't have on your site. So that's like a content strategy there. I think even just looking at prompts where like competitors might be cited and your brand is not cited, it kind of just sparks ideas for like, okay, where are our content gaps that we're not covering, or what pieces of content do we have on this so maybe are not answering this specific question. We've also done a lot of the like reframing articles, or like the headers, like question answer style, because that was like a trending strategy for a while and it seems to like work relatively well. There's also tools that will show you like how AI sees your page, like the markdown version. So that lends to opportunity for like technical optimization. If you have like really clunky pages where like things are rendering in the back end that shouldn't be, and that's like taking up AI crawl tokens, then you might want to fix that. So I do think there's like ways to leverage these tools into actions, but figuring that out, I think, takes time and like practice, and it depends on like the tool and how well versed the person using it is and how they can make those connections from like what they're seeing to like, okay, what's the action for this piece of data?
Yeah, and honestly, I would say spot on. Also, I feel a little validated too, because that's very similar to what I've been doing. I look at the prompts of what AI is looking at for that type of service, product, brand, whatever. But then I marry it back to the data that I know and trust, the keyword rankings, the search volume, all of that. So that is definitely a process that I follow too. When it comes to like other AI processes or tools or things like that, I think one thing that AI gets complicated with is there's so many things to do with it, and you don't know what all you can do with it. So I might be diverting away from the question a little bit, but like when I think of AI, I use it to answer questions, to make sure my brands are showing up where they need to show up. But I also use it to become efficient. I use it to make my workflows better. I build skills in Claude to help make myself better. So it's also like, I think there's two different aspects of AI of, okay, what can you do and trust it with to be basically your assistant, all the way to what can you trust it as like a friend.
I think it's a good point to transition into what I think the theme was today, which was quality on quantity. Because and I say, like, I've seen a lot of Facebook groups recently where every single person says that they're now a digital marketing company and they build websites because they have access to the AI tools that have allowed many people to build websites without having any prior experience. And I'm really worried about the quantity of content and websites and everything else that's going to be produced that's just going to be lacking in the context and the understanding of what really is needed for a good website today. Help me understand the balance here between quantity and quality, because I know we need to use AI, but when are we appropriately using AI in agencies today?
Yeah, so I mean, if we speak purely from a content perspective, AI can be supplemental. It should not be the end all be all. So to your point, I have seen a bunch of agencies, a bunch of companies coming out and saying, hey, we can create 100 new pieces of content around what everyone is searching for related to your product and get you to show up. Okay, that might work in the short term. And that's what we're seeing with a lot of these AI search or GEO strategies is freshness is a big piece of it. So creating the content frequently and consistently can help, but not in the long term. So I've always focused on quality content. So you can use AI to see what people are searching for, what some of those questions are that they're asking, include those questions in the headers, like Leilani has said. But I think it comes down to you need to provide that unique voice. It always comes back to, at least in my eyes, EEAT from SEO. You need to have that authority. You need to have that trustworthiness. If you're using AI to create content, it's learned off of other content that's on the web. It's not providing a unique voice. So at that point, you're just creating a bunch of repetitive information and there's no quality to it, and it's not going to serve you in the long term.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. I think like when the AI booms like popped in, what was it, 2 years ago now, and everyone was like devaluing human written content because they're like, I could just use AI and generate this. Like, why do I have to pay a writer $200 to generate a piece of content when they can just use AI? And I think a lot of people who took that approach got burned when like they were just spinning out super generic, like regurgitated content essentially. And I think now the industry is starting to come back to the quality piece. And I think a lot of people have talked about, like, I think ClearScope was like information gain. Like, what can you add that's new to the conversation that's not already out there, that doesn't already exist in, what the top 10 ranking pages on Google show. So I think things like first party data, like super brand focused information, any like internal insights that you can add is what makes that difference. And I do think there might be like a middle ground where you can use AI to support the output while still having like a strategy that was created by a person who knows like who the audience is, what the piece of content needs to accomplish, and can add insights from whatever the brand or the product or the industry that are not available already on Google, like whether it be like internal metrics or like first party, like I mentioned, first party data or quotes from your clients or, things like that are just like unique to you and your brand. Finding a way to implement that into an AI strategy, I think if you still want to use it in order to like increase output, is possible. But I think like what AI is useful for is like researching, clustering, filtering data, creating outlines, building workflows. I think there's still a place for strategists to inform those outputs and make sure that they're valid in kind of what we know works versus doesn't work, what a best practice is, like what we want to actually see living on a site published and like actually be proud of versus like, okay, I get it, I generated 50 articles this month, they're live, and like what's the value of that if it's not providing value?
I want to add something too, like related to what you're saying. I think it also comes down to, yes, quality, but also that trustworthiness too. If you're spinning up that content and let's say you are bold enough to be no human in the loop, what are you putting out there about your brand? You have no idea until it comes back to bite you. And that, I think, is probably the scariest piece. I mean, if you think about interacting with AI, we all have, what is it telling you? It tells you you are the smartest person in the world. It tells you, yes, that is right, even if it doesn't know that. I challenge AI on my clients' brands all the time. We have personas, we have context documents for that specific reason. So I could write the content, but if we're interacting with AI, we want to make sure it knows it too. And we have to guide it more than just blindly following it.
I empowered Claude Code with a beta tested Google extension to build an entire ads campaign for me from scratch. So it had nothing there, and I probably used an insane amount of tokens to do that. The browsing sessions are quite consumptive, but from like the very surface level, it just looked like it did a great job. And then you just started bleeding out money because it said a bunch of broad phrase stuff. And it was like insane that how much money you can spend with a poorly set up ads campaign that has zero conversion because it was just all in the industry, but it doesn't quite connect the person and what they're really shopping for. And there's that human connection that is just still lacking. So I can appreciate that the structure was set up really well, but the details, it really didn't understand the details. Someone had to go through and clean that up.
Yeah, I used Claude Cowork to create a brand new WordPress website. And I gave it wasn't for a client, it was just a test. I wanted to see, everyone was talking about it, so I wanted to try it. Brand new domain, no authority on it, whatever. I said, okay, go ahead and code this site. Let's create some content around it. Here's some topics. We created the outline, created the whole like strategy of what the website would be about, whatever. And then I said, okay, I'm going to allow you to actually go in and create that website. And failed. It took so much interaction from me to be like, what are you doing? Like, no, don't wander off. Half the time it kept trying to jump over to my company uses Slack. And it would be like reading Slack. And I was like, that has nothing to do with it. Like, no, you're working in Chrome. Get back to work. Like,
My favorite is when it's like confirm the button and it hits no instead of yes. And you're like, wait, what?
it did that for me so many times. And it's like, wait, I pressed the clear button. I meant submit. And I was just like, oh, this is a bad intern.
That's pretty funny. I hadn't experienced trying to code it out with, I have it build a WordPress site. I had to build an HTML site, which is relatively straightforward, I feel like, inside those systems. The lack of integrations and other complications is problematic for the wrong website. Leilani, you look like you're thinking about something over there. You have any thoughts?
No, I was just thinking of Claude. Like, I think it's really capable for certain things. Like I had a client meeting yesterday. We were talking about reporting, and they're like, well, we only really care about like organic revenue versus other channels because like it's free traffic. I mean, free revenue essentially, like not free, but compared to paid. So like I went in Claude and I have it connected with Search Console and GA4 through MCP. And I was like, can you build a dashboard that focuses high level organic revenue for these 4 brands and provide like an executive summary for each one? And it built out like this crazy HTML dashboard that's actually pretty cool. And that was like really fast, like not refined or anything. So I imagine if I like fine tuned it, I could actually be really useful and save a lot of time gathering like data and metrics.
I feel like that's the perfect use for agencies, is all of that gathering of data and processing of data. Lets you focus on being creative instead of just like what you would almost call like the intern work there, where it's just gathering everything for someone else to process.
For sure. But I think kind of related to what we were talking about, what AI can unlock, I think, for people like SEO strategists. I think everyone's worried about like AI taking over our jobs, and I think our jobs are just going to be like, I have AI and I use it a lot and it saves me a lot of time, but I don't feel like I have less work to do. I think if anything, it's like unlocked new possibilities of like improving processes, but figuring out how to improve those processes takes time. Building out the workflows takes time. Now it's like, oh, I have this ability to do this piece faster, but then it means like, okay, it means I should probably do more of this task. So I think that's kind of like also interesting, is like how, like, when does it become too much? It's like, okay, I unlocked all of these possibilities, and like as a strategist, I have ways that I can think of using this to make everything better, but like, where's the line? Because I still have the same amount of hours. Just because I can do more things in a shorter amount of time doesn't mean it like takes away from the delivering the final output, which still requires, I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly. I don't know what the best way to like word this is, but I feel like the unlocking of all of this potential, I think, means we're spending more time in these tools trying to figure out how to make them work and improve our processes. But then there's like an unlimited amount of processes. So it's just like, where does it stop? Maybe that's just me. Like I've just become obsessed.
I've thought about this when like newer agencies are popping up and they've built their entire process out with AI, and they have a ton of great agents working for them, and they've simplified their stuff. Bigger agencies have a hard time adapting, right? They're slower to adapt, and small agencies are coming through and being so nimble and quick at making those changes. I find it really fascinating that like it's what we might have charged $5,000 for just a couple years ago could be reduced to like a $2,000 package now, because the fulfillment tasks and like writing a blog have changed so much in the last couple of years that what could have taken you hours now takes you 20 minutes. So that's where I find it really fascinating, is like that, how much like the dollar amount of the packages is going to have to change, or the fulfillment's going to have to change as the industry adapts to what's really going on today. And I don't know if I've seen it. I don't know if you guys would be open about that, like sharing that with about your own agencies, but the prices still stay the same, because it does feel like you're doing just way more work than you used to be. I don't know if your metrics have changed for like the fulfillment internally, but it just feels like you've been empowered to provide better services to your client. and there's an expectation now that it's easier that you kind of have to.
Yeah, so for my agency specifically, we don't have packages, and we never have. With AI being folded into it, it just makes more sense that we don't do it that way. Because I've actually had sales calls where we're talking about it, and they're like, "Well, what kind of package would it fall into if I did this or this or this?" And I was like, "Well, let's just talk about scope. What do you need? Where can we support? That's the package." Like, it doesn't have to be, "Oh, well, I only need one piece from here and it's an add-on to our standard package," or something like that. So I haven't really run into too many complications with that. I guess if we had to boil it down, we roughly plan for hours. But with AI, we've kind of shifted with our efficiencies and just with AI strategy in general to adjusting some of our back end workflows to kind of fit to whatever we were already working on for our clients or within that price range.
That it feels like that could create a lot of, like, from an operational standpoint, a lot of chasing the next task without necessarily having like a clear plan for what you're working on. How do you guys manage that without losing track of? I'll say this: we'd say there's like creative genius in SEO, and there's operational excellence in SEO. And most agencies that we discuss this with say that operational excellence makes a better agency than some great SEO geniuses that maybe lack the operational excellence. So from like the operational side, help me understand how you guys do it custom and still maintain that.
Yeah, so related to that, in my intro, I called myself Embracing the Crazy. So I would say that it really does change. We are very data driven. So every month we're taking a look at what's performing, what's not, and we are being flexible with changing to a strategy that's going to really evolve and help. Eventually, we might get into a regular cadence of, okay, this is what we're going to do for these clients, and we can kind of scale that out. But at the beginning, and almost like let's call it a learning phase, it definitely is more ad hoc, and we're testing and trying what works, especially if it's an industry that we haven't done a ton of work in before. And we might try some general strategies that we know work across the board for others. And then see if it works for that industry too. So from a scaling perspective, I would say it is difficult, but once we get out of, depending on the brand or the industry, the first 3 to 6 months, then it starts getting more into a pattern and what we typically could more easily scale.
It's pretty interesting to me. We've had agencies on that try to like find a specific niche and lock it down and understand exactly how to do their ads and their SEO. So they just sell packages because they feel like they know exactly what the customer's going to need. They've moved away from custom because it just muddies up what their fulfillment's going to do because they think they know exactly what the customer needs. In your situation, you're actually doing more of like a 3-month understanding of what they need before you kind of like lock down the consistency of the work. And that's where you spend, like you have to invest in the time to evaluate that and the budget to spend on ads and everything else.
And it's a lot of learning too. I mean, obviously, if you don't stick to a specific industry or niche, you're learning about random things that you never thought you would learn about, but you get that knowledge. You become, to quote Leilani, almost like an extension of that company's team because you have to work with the product managers or management of some level to understand what the core of that business is, how it functions, all of that, to be able to provide success for them.
Leilani, I'd love to understand a little bit more about how you guys are going about this. Like, how does your company price things, and how do you?
It's very similar. It's very similar to what Liz was saying. Like, we have like a scope of work that we'll have with clients, but it's not like a bulleted package list of services. It's very similar. Like, we really want to integrate into their team and be a part of their like broader marketing plan. So like we'll start with an audit and uncover findings, but it's really tailored to each client and like where they are and what they need. Like we don't niche down specifically, but we do have like a lot of automotive clients and e-commerce. So there are like the strategies and taxes that we know work for those verticals that, you know, might show up for new clients, but we're not saying like we're only doing these 5 strategies, tactics, whatever for like the next month. Like it's more of like a roadmap, and we start with like the data. Where is the largest area of opportunity, and start there. And I'd say like the first 6 months to a year is just like, okay, making sure everything gets into a really good spot. And then it's like, okay, we can maybe think about maintenance. Like, what do we want to do ongoing, whether that be like editorial content, like meta updates on a regular basis and that sort of thing. But it's not like everyone gets the same package in this plan and this is the steps that we're going to follow each time. It really depends on the client who we're talking to and like where they are in their journey, what their technical looks like, how they're like crawling is set up. Like all of those things are things that we're thinking about, and it really varies from client to client. So in the type of agency that we are, it doesn't really work to have like prescriptive.
Yeah, I think I'm understanding why too, because you're full service. Like you're not just providing SEO tactics. If SEO is not going to work, you change it.
Right. As a contrast, the last agency that I worked at was only content. So it was like, okay, here's your package. You have 12 articles a month and 10 links a month. And that was straightforward and simple, but we weren't engaging with the other parts of their SEO strategy or the other parts of their marketing strategy. So operationally, super easy. Here's your deliverable. Here's your package. You're paying the same amount every month. Like, here's where you go. But like the strategy doesn't change. It's just like output. And like there's a strategy behind the content, of course, but like it's only one piece. Whereas in my current agency, we're doing technical, we're looking at metadata, we're doing on-page, we're doing content editorial, we're doing outreach. Like it's a full thing, and it's just going to look a little bit different for every client and how their site is set up and how healthy it is and what needs to be done before we can do something else. So it's a little bit different in how.
As Stan Ventures exists, right? We do backlinks for a lot of agencies. And I had a call recently where someone was like, well, like, do you have any case studies about how your backlinks have been effective? I was like, it's an interesting question, because I could give any agency backlinks, but if they're putting them in place with really bad timing, they're just never going to get results for the customers. So like you have a lot of really bad stories of agencies that have used the fulfillment, whether that was your content that you're producing at that time, like they could buy content from you, but whether or not it was successful depends on how they were leveraging it, where they were placing it. Like, did they have the right content trees? Did they have the right schema and technical SEO in place? I think that's really fascinating because of how complicated it makes running a full service agency, because that strategy is like full on marketing consulting. Like you're so much a part of the company at every level that you're now finding which different tactic is the most, like the best ROI, funneling it down as a lead, and potentially following up on, did your team even call these people? Are we actually closing these leads? What's the revenue? And that's a whole nother level of marketing than a company that's just focused on SEO and letting.
For us, like we're full service SEO, so we're not doing things like branding and PR and social, but we're still advising on those things. Like when we notice something, we're like, hey, like this is not on our wheelhouse, but like we noticed you have a huge brand opportunity because like your competitors are doing this work. So like we'll like surface those things, but we're not like following up on client leads or anything like that, thankfully.
Different depth. Not everyone goes that far in.
Yeah,
right?
But yeah, we do have like visibility into all of these things. And like when you're researching for SEO, like you notice what competitors are doing. You're like, hey, this is like something you should think about for like your social team, even if it's not like something that we do. But like it is that integration that I think makes the agency unique and the partnerships unique and more valuable. And I think that is going to be key as people start figuring out that they can do stuff in AI, whether the quality is where it should be or not. I think having a partnership where you're like, can add value across services, even if they're not services you provide, will kind of help with like that relationship building and that trust building that I think we'll all need to sustain these relationships as things evolve.
Well, and I like the fact that you phrased them as relationships, because that's exactly how we view them too. We obviously call them clients, but it really is relationship management as well. And just because of our topic, I'll say the cheesy line of the quality relationships and clients are the ones that we want to make sure that we focus on, and really bring our attention to. If we just focused on quantity and the number of clients that we had, we wouldn't be able to drive the same amount of results and the same successes that we do.
Well, I'll have one last question for the two of you, and it's a simple one that I ask most agencies that are on the podcast, and it's just to predict the future here. With the way the agencies are changing, I'm curious to hear from your perspectives what you think is going to change the most for within your own agency or in the marketing world in general over the next couple of years, with the integration of AI being so prevalent across agencies. Tell me what you think will change the most about the industry.
So I'll answer this with two separate angles with it. First one being, so I've talked a lot about how I've built things with Claude Code for efficiencies and adding to the workflow. I think that's really going to be a differentiator in agencies from where they are now. A lot of agencies will increase headcount as the clients increase. With AI, if you build tools to make your processes more efficient, maybe you don't need that headcount. So I think agencies will be a lot slimmer, and will have to be a little more focused on strategic hires for their industry knowledge and things like that. So like team dynamics will change. But from the other side of it, I think it'll be interesting to see what agencies come out ahead. When you talk about, like, we promote our clients and we talk about how they should show up in AI. How many marketing agencies are marketing for themselves? I know we struggle with it because we prioritize our client work over marketing for ourselves. So from the other angle of it, it'll be interesting to see what agencies come out on top from a what is AI recommending, what agencies to work with for certain niches or certain services, to see what would come out there.
Leilani, what do you think about the future of marketing today?
I don't know. It's like, it's like a tough thing to talk about just because how much things have changed in the last 2 years. But I think, this whole conversation is about quality over quantity. And I think that's always, whether it's been at the forefront or whether people have believed it, I think that's always kind of been the truth. Like, okay, like create something that's useful for people to solve their problem and you'll be successful. I think in the next 5 years, we're likely to see more people continue to adopt using AI and LLMs. I think right now we as marketers are very in tune to what's happening, and it's like all that we're hearing about and talking about and thinking about. But I think if we think about like the general population, it's still a very small sector of search. I think that'll probably change in the next 5 years as more people realize that it can be like a shopping assistant and help them make decisions and find camps for their kids or whatever it might be. But I think the future of AI will be for optimizing, interpreting, and building rather than solving everything.
I can appreciate that. Yeah. That perspective is really healthy.
Yeah. I think that like we're in a hype bubble right now, and I think it's not going to last forever. Not saying that I think AI is going to go away, but I think it'll kind of settle. It'll be used all the time. We're going to be using it for optimizing our things and improving our processes and making our grocery lists. But I think it'll settle to a point where people are like, okay, this is really helpful tool, but it's a tool that I'm using as an extension of like my brain and my thoughts and my strategies. And I think that'll kind of replicate in the industry.
Yeah, I think the hype bubble is pretty real. I think I experienced it myself where I was like, this is going to do everything for me.
Yeah, exactly. Now, I have a question for you two. So coming from the SEO world, we say, or it used to be a big saying of, oh, I'm just going to Google that, because Google was such the prominent factor in search engines and what people would use. What do you think the new saying is going to be? who do you think will be the one that comes out on top? Because I feel like it's an interesting race. It keeps moving back and forth. What do you guys think?
I don't know if I know who's even in the running to compete with Google it still. Like I think
Oh, I just meant from like an AI perspective. Like if you look at ChatGPT, Gemini, Perplexity, all of them.
I think right now everyone's like ChatGPT, but they kind of damage their reputation, at least among a certain part of the population in the last few months. I know a lot of people who switched to Claude. I'm like an avid Claude user. Claude is just such a weird name that I don't see it becoming like colloquially used. Like I'm just gonna ask Claude. Like, but yeah, I don't know what that could look like. I wonder if people will just start like calling them assistants. Like I'll ask my assistant as a joke, but I don't know.
The tools just depend on the project, right? Like right now, they all have their own strengths, and I feel like if you don't have a subscription to multiple tools, you're probably not getting the best out of AI. And there's a few that I really haven't even tested yet. Like I really haven't played with Grok much, and Gemini has been pretty minor as well.
What you're saying goes back to like that's true for people like us, but like someone's grandpa who's like searches online and is just like, oh, I can use this thing. They're not going to have multiple subscriptions to different LLMs. They're going to find one that maybe is easiest for them to talk to and use that one.
I think that's where I'd say ChatGPT still has the average consumer. Like when I have a random search on my websites, it's from ChatGPT. Like someone's landed on it through ChatGPT, and it's usually not the others.
I think they were just like the first to go so big and be used by like regular people that did a lot for them and their brand. So it'll be hard for someone else to catch up, even if they like fall behind in usage.
I feel like their interface is like better designed for the average person too. Like the voice to text works better, and there's
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be very synonymous to working with or like interacting with those agents. It'll be like the Kleenex to tissue. Like even though you might not be using the exact Kleenex brand, you might reference it as a Kleenex anyways.
Yeah, I think I've already done that too. I've definitely referred to it just as like ChatGPT to summarize a conversation without sounding ridiculous about like, oh, I used Gemini for this task and Claude for this task. And oh, guys, we're out of time. I really appreciate both of you joining us on SEO On Air. Hopefully we'll have you back again as guests, and we'll see you next time.